January 31st, 2010 was the first stop on the road to WrestleMania, where nearly 17,000 fans packed the Phillips Arena in Atlanta, Georgia, to be part of a star-studded card full of title matches, personal grudges, and one particular grudge that was so goddamn egregious it still pisses me off to this very goddamn day. Why did they think it was a good idea to make fun of Mickie James? I still have no goddamn clue. I will never understand. Fuck everybody that thought it was a really good idea. But nevertheless, the main event was the 30-man Royal Rumble match, where a shocking return happened. Edge came back from injury. We thought we knew him, but we didn't. He came back from an Achilles heel injury and managed to win the 30-man Royal Rumble match and go on to face Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 26. And then they had to turn him heel afterwards and then turn him face because they didn't know what the hell they were doing. The whole spear thing didn't work. There are things that didn't work in 2010, but some things did on this show, so let's talk about it, shall we? I'm Charles Rankin with the retro review of WWE Royal Rumble 2010. Yes, it was pretty much a sellout at the Phillips Arena in Atlanta, Georgia, and the crowd was mostly electric. There were times where they were a little bit quiet, and also one thing that I forgot that made this event a little bit jarring was the fact instead of, shooting it like from one particular camera side, they shot it from the other side, and it always looked a little bit odd to me. I have never had the most affection for this particular Rumble, just because 2010 was a very, very odd year. There were some good moments, do not get me wrong. There was Nexus, and there was a destruction of the Nexus well before it needed to be destroyed, but there were good moments on this card. So the dark match, by the way, featured a bunch of women. I don't know how long the match was. It was the Bella Twins, Eve Torres, Gail Kim, and Kelly Kelly against the future, Miss Noemdar, Alicia Fox. I'm not going to try to do that. Alicia Fox, Jillian Hall, Katie Lee Burchill. Boy, howdy, she still looks great. Maurice and Natalia. So, yeah, there you go. The Bellas, Gail, Eve, and Kelly Kelly won that, for what that's worth. So then we get Pyro and Skillet's hero plays. We need a hero. I still need that drummer because, good God, she's beautiful. And Savannah, the ring announcer for ECW. I don't remember much about Savannah. She wasn't awful, but she wasn't a great ring announcer. Also, by this point, ECW was well and truly beyond being, it was well beyond even being a shell of the former goddamn ECW. By this point, it was going to be replaced by NXT within, like a month or two. I think they ended it right, like maybe a few weeks after this. So, Cole, Lawler, and Stryker on the call. They didn't even have JR for this. If they had JR for this, it actually would have been a whole lot better. I can't remember if they just left him off or if he had health issues. I'm actually genuinely trying to remember, but nevertheless. Christian defending the ECW Championship against Ezekiel Jackson, who had William Regal in his corner, and they really thought Ezekiel Jackson was going to be the next big thing. He wasn't bad. People say, he's a lot like Ahmed Johnson. No, Ezekiel was better. Ezekiel could sort of work and didn't injure people or injure himself like Ahmed did. It was power versus veteran skills. This was fine. Ezekiel focused on the back, and eventually a kill switch engage out of nowhere. 1, 2, 3. Christian retains and then would lose the championship to Ezekiel Jackson, who would be known as the final ECW champion, the final WWE ECW champion. Teddy Long is with Tiffany. Tiffany, the abuser. Read up on her and Drew McIntyre, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Crime Time want to be in the Rumble. There's only one spot. They both want to be in it, so they try to bribe Khali. And Khali had, I think his actual brother as his manager. And Khali says no dice, home slice, and then a whole bunch of people make dated hip-hop references. The fact that 2010 qualifies as having dated references makes me feel old. I was 29 when this came out. And Teddy Long mentioning the Crime Time looks like fools with their pants on the ground. No, seriously, that was actually something that was said there. Here's Miz, and Miz basically cuts him down, and Teddy Long says, hey, in addition to being in the Rumble, you're going to face MVP. And that match is next. But we see Cody talking to Orton saying, well, I'm with you, but I don't know about Ted DiBiase Jr., because by this point, Legacy was going to totally split. So Miz and MVP had a U.S. title match that could have honestly been on Raw. I don't have anything against anybody getting a pay-per-view payday, but this match is basic. MVP did attack Miz and, went at, he had won a number one contendership a little bit earlier, I think a few weeks before this. And then Lawler made a comment about MVP saying, I'd shake his hand, but then I'd count my fingers afterwards. Good old Lawler. just slide in the fact that he's kind of, he's not even funny. Not even funny by this point. There were times where he was funny. This wasn't it. So we did some reversals, and then eventually Miz caught MVP coming into the ring. Ha, lol. And caught him with the most devastating maneuver in all professional wrestling, a surprise roll-up 1, 2, 3. So he retains. And then Show and Jericho are talking. They're no longer Jericho. Miz and Big Show are they are a team now. And Jericho says, well, we have history. I helped make you bigger and everything. I helped make you a giant. Well, I kind of already was a giant. Well, besides the point. I know where your loyalties lie. And Big Show basically says, I'll toss both of you out. I don't care. Orton then talks to Ted DiBiase Jr. He doesn't want their help. So then we have Sheamus and Orton for the WWE Championship. The heel versus heel aspect of this didn't necessarily work. Sheamus had come on the scene. He had been ECW for a spell. He beat John Cena for the WWE Championship at TLC just a month prior. Or maybe like 6 weeks prior. I'm trying to remember the exact date. In a tables match. And then they decided, let's give Orton a shot. This is basically find a way to turn Orton face because it wasn't bad. Orton was getting cheered more. Orton focused on the knee of Sheamus, and Sheamus focused on the arm of Orton. And then eventually Cody interfered right in front of the referee, and then an RKO was hit, and the referee just waved it off, and it was a DQ. And then he beat up Cody, and then he beat up Ted DiBiase Jr. when he came down, and then Sheamus hit the Brogue Kick on Orton. The whole thing about Sheamus is he was a 2-time WWE champion by, I think it was the summer of 2010, which was too soon. I mean, he only held the championship for a little bit and then beat up Triple H and put him on the shelf for a while, but actually it was a way for him to wind down his full-time career. Yeah, that was something. And then here we get to Michelle McCool doing the whole Piggy James thing. Recaps of that. Yes, Mickie James looking like a human woman and not somebody that basically looked like they were a lamppost. Now, I'm not knocking anybody that has conditions or has whatever. The human body is beautiful. You know, all aspects are to various people. You like what you like, that's fine. But the fact they were making fun of Mickie for being big when she wasn't, and even if she was, what the hell's the goddamn point? I mean, there's getting heel. I'm not even knocking Michelle here. This was Michelle's idea. She's a goddamn idiot. But I have a feeling this is Vince McMahon, Kevin Dunn, Bruce Pritchard. Well, I don't actually know if Bruce Pritchard was there. I know that there were a bunch of people that were there that probably thought, oh, let's just make fun of Mickie. And she looked really goddamn hurt. Now, it could have had something to do with, you know, I think her and Cena or something like that. Or her and various other people, or maybe she just rubbed people the wrong way, or whoever the hell it was. I don't actually remember. There was some relationship stuff that was talked about, but still, just beat her in the ring. You don't have to humiliate her because now she's supposed to get revenge in a storyline where everybody's just booing the wrong person because Michelle seemed uncomfortable with this, so I don't necessarily know, because she was like really, really stilted when she was talking about this. Here's and then Layla comes out in a, piggy fat suit, and then Mickie rushes the ring, attacks her. Match starts, DDT, 1, 2, 3. It's like 20 seconds, and then suddenly the Bellas, Maria, let's see, I wrote down all these people, Eve and Gail, and possibly Kelly. I didn't really pay attention to everybody that was there. They helped Mickie cake them both. That's how they were utilizing the women. In dark matches and thrown together matches, and then also this. I'm not saying that every woman needed to be featured in 20-minute matches, but there was potential to actually utilize the women's division a whole lot better than this. Yeah, this was in a very, very, very uncomfortable storyline. It was absolutely pointless. I do not understand why the hell they thought this was a good idea. Yeah, so Vince McMahon, Kevin Dunn, whoever else, ain't going to see the pearly gates for a lot of things, but for stuff like this, just as far as wrestling. Things picked up, though, with The Undertaker defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Rey Mysterio. So it was size versus speed. Rey at one point busts Undertaker's nose open with kicks and possibly his knee brace. Not exactly sure. But, yeah, Taker was bleeding. Of course, Jerry Lawler says, I didn't even know Undertaker could bleed. You've seen him bleed since, like, at least 97. 97, 98. Pretty certain you've seen him bleed before, Lawler. But then again, Lawler was probably trying to think of more racist jokes, but realized he couldn't say that. And, not offend the Hispanic audience like that ever stopped him before. It was fine. It was well worked. Ray gave Undertaker everything he could handle, but eventually got caught in the last ride. 1, 2, 3. There you go. I mean, that's pretty much it right there. Like, the undercard had its moments, but, after that whole Piggy James thing, I mean, there was just stuff that just wasn't clicking. That, it got the crowd to pop a little bit because Mickey won, and Mickey won the title for like 3 weeks. That's the kind of payoff you have. Undertaker and Ray, it was probably their best match that they had, or close to it, but whatever. Kane is talking to Shawn. Oh, you think you're preordained that you have to win this divine intervention, all that, to face the Undertaker? Well, I faced the Undertaker twice at WrestleMania, and you're not going to do it. Then Triple H basically wishes Shawn good luck and all that, and that you're going to have to find another way because I'm going to win the Rumble. Rumble match rundown, all the numbers and all that and everything. We get to the 30-man Royal Rumble match. This one was odd because it had elements that were good. There are people that I talk to that I respect greatly that really, really like it, and that's fine. We all have different opinions. To me, this is like middle of the ground as far as Rumbles because while there was a good beginning, so to speak, and some good star power, something about this one didn't click. It flowed fine. It was like 50 minutes because it was only 90-second intervals. Ziggler and Evan Bourne start off. And then Punk comes in at number 3 along with Serena. Back when Serena had a shaved head, also wasn't an idiot. And was just utilized as somebody that shaved her head for this business. Where has Serena Deeb been on programming? I have no idea. And I'm not talking WWE. I'm talking in general. So every time he eliminated people, he eliminated Ziggler and Evan Bourne. He would do a sermon on the Mount. Straight Edge Society can save you. I can save the wrestlers. If you don't want to be saved, you're going to be saved one way or another. Straight Edge means I'm better than you. This is when Punk was really, really, really trying to make things work. He really was. And then JTG comes in, and JTG gets tossed out pretty quickly, and then Khali comes in, he says, raise your hand, and then he chops him. And Khali, by this point, his knees were shot. I mean, he had no ass. He was minus an ass. Look at that. It's like, it's insane. It was like Hank Hill in that one episode of King of the Hill. But Khali's got the vice and everything. He's got that on it, slapped on his head. Ow. And then Beth comes down. Beth ends up eliminating Great Khali by kissing him. That would distract me enough at that point, I will say that. And then Beth gets GTS'd and gets tossed out. I'm trying to remember the timeline, but I remember Punk and Lita dated. Punk and Beth dated. I believe Punk and Maria dated. And I'm probably mixing those up. I think Punk and Beth were dating at this point. Or if not, they had just recently. And Punk and AJ Lee or AJ Mendez now are very happy and good for them. But I just remember that like kind of being like a, not tumultuous, but just like a thing where it's like a series of unfortunate events. But anyway, Zack Ryder at number 7, he gets a mic shot to the head. He gets tossed out. That's back when he had the weird tights where he had one leg exposed and then one leg covered. It was weird. Definitely not the worst attire in the world. Definitely not the worst attire in wrestling history. Just very odd. I always found it odd. Triple H comes in number 8. Drew McIntyre comes in number 9. Yeah, Punk got tossed out pretty quickly after this. I mean, good job. You could have done a few more people like this, and you really could have heated up Punk, but they weren't concerned with heating up Punk. When the biggest person that you eliminated as far as a star was Beth, and I'm not knocking Beth, I'm just saying as far as how they viewed the women, Beth was probably the biggest star of those people. So yeah, Drew McIntyre, freshly, fresh-faced and everything. Didn't have the beard, didn't have that. This is when he was the chosen one. And he would end up being tossed out of the company 4 years later, would go to kill it on the Indies, kill it in Impact, and come back as a top guy. So anyway, Ted DiBiase Jr., Kane, and Cody, they were all in within the next few entrants. And then Miz clocks MVP at number 14. And then Carlito comes in at number 15. Kane got tossed out early, which was surprising. Miz came in at 16. MVP immediately ran down and tossed him out, and along with himself. Wait, too many pronouns, pal. Vince McMahon, presumably. And Shawn came in at number 18. So immediately Jerry Lawler lost interest in the Rumble because we got past 17. And then he goes nuts. He says must win to face the Undertaker. He tossed five people got tossed out. It was like, you know, it was like Drew McIntyre. All these people got tossed out, and it was good stuff. This is where things were fine, but the problem is they didn't pace it well enough where there were a couple people left for somebody else to toss out. Yes, Shawn did this and he was proving it, but then, you know, now we have Triple H and Shawn. Cena comes down. So now we have 3 stars. Nobody's getting tossed out yet. Oh, ho, ho, ho. After Cena fists them both with a double 5-knuckle shuffle, a 10-knuckle shuffle, because you got to 2-fist it when DX is involved. Boy, howdy do you ever. Triple H ends up getting Sweet Chin Music right out of the goddamn Rumble, which was very surprising. He got eliminated that early. Shelton at number 20, he got tossed out. Yoshitatsu got tossed out quickly with his weird theme. And then Big Show, Mark Henry, that is, and Chris Masters at 22, 23, 24. And then Truth, Swagger, and Kofi, 25, 26, 27. Then Jericho comes in. And he's all ready to, like, you know, win the Rumble because he's got a prime spot. But then suddenly, you think you know me, and Edge returns. Striker has to stop himself saying, holy shit. Edge comes down, spears a couple people, throws out Jericho. And so it's down to Batista, because Batista's number 3. Batista, Cena, Edge, and Shawn. Shawn and Edge are on the apron, the hardest part of the ring, by the way. He super kicks Edge, but Edge falls back in the ring, and then Batista manages to eliminate him. And Shawn takes a header and just hits really bad on that mat. And he's out. And then he ends up all panicking and everything, and Charles Robinson's trying to get him to leave, and Charles takes a bump because he takes a Sweet Chin Music. A referee gets Shawn to leave. So now it's Cena, Batista, and Edge. Cena eliminates Batista when he ducks, and Batista goes over the top rope. So that prime number 30 spot didn't work all that well, only for The Undertaker. And then Edge ends up eliminating Cena while Batista's looking at him, because that's going to set up the fact when Cena becomes WWE champion at Elimination Chamber, Batista is going to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase that he didn't have, but Vince McMahon said, to hell with it, go out there and do something. And then that would lead to their program. So yeah, there were some eventful little teases, little nuggets that they had here in this Rumble, and it wasn't bad, but there were uneven parts to it. Like, you can't have just action, action, action. You got to have some slow spots. I don't know. There were times where this one really, really clicked, and then there were times where it just, because 2010 was weird. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rutland. I'll see you soon.